podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to It's Only a Game, seeing as we're all going German. Right, I'm Jimmy, I'm joined tonight on this fine Tuesday evening by Matt and Greg. How are we doing, gents?
Doing fine, yeah, no issues here. My daughter's got tonsillitis, unfortunately, so apart from that, all good.
That sounds like an issue.
It is an issue, actually, yeah.
Not gonna lie.
If all things have been no issues, I think that's probably an issue.
Yeah. How are you, Matt?
I'm alright. I'm good. Fighting off a cold, as I think everyone else is at the moment.
It's the
that
season.
time of year.
Season of colds, isn't it?
Tis the season to be coffee and splutterous, to misquote Bobby Christmas Carol.
We are in the Halloween month, aren't we?
Too early for Christmas carols.
It is too early. It's always December. Technically, it's too early for Christmas carols. It feels like.
I mean,
sometimes.
some of our listeners might actually listen to this and go, "Oh, it's December now." So to be fair, if you're listening to this in December of any given year, then yes, Merry Christmas. However, otherwise, no.
Yeah, no, not a chance. Other than that, all good, all alright. As you can tell by the enthusiasm in my voice, all good.
Oh, we are up for this, lads. Let's get ourselves motivated. It's been, there's lots to talk about. There's lots of positives, lots of iffy bits to talk about. Let's get ourselves motivated. Come on, right. So, I say get ourselves motivated. I do want to start on something of a sad note, if that's okay, gents. Just obviously since our last podcast, there's been quite a few tragedies in football. And I don't mean like the Everton team. I mean seriously. Obviously, it's well known that George Baldock, just before the England-Greece game at Wembley, passed away at his home in Athens. Obviously, former Sheffield United player, currently at Panathinaikos, 31 years of age with a young family. Absolutely tragic that he's just suddenly gone in such circumstances. I listened to the LS Football podcast, which is a Greek football podcast, that they speak out highly of how much he loved playing for the Ethniki, the Greek national team. He really embraced his Greek side. Obviously, he was, I think, for his grandmother. And how much he... I think all you have to do is go back to Sheffield United's social media accounts and see the video when Baldock left in summer, and the outpouring of love that Sheffield United fans had for somebody who was not born in Sheffield. You know, he was born and raised around Milton Keynes, obviously played under Chris Wilder at Northampton, amongst other clubs, really rose his way up the divisions before reaching the Premier League with Sheffield United and then achieving international success with the Greek national team and going on to play for a huge club in Panathinaikos. And it's just such a tragic loss. So sudden. But I think also our thoughts, and this is horrible to say, must go to the family. Obviously, Liam Manning's son, Theo Manning, passed away, a very, very small child. It's just heartbreaking. And of course, Steve Bruce's grandson, Maddison, who is also, I think, Alex Bruce's nephew, and Matthew Smith, former Fulham Leeds forward, his son. Sorry to start on such a sad note, but I couldn't let it pass without acknowledging the football-related tragedies in the world since our last podcast. There's no more to say, really. Just our hearts and our thoughts go out to each of the families affected in such a horrible time. And it makes you wonder as well, you know, these footballers playing week in, week out, and managers, and how many of them will have known people involved, affected, and the grief they're carrying with them as they're playing, and maybe be a bit more mindful, because obviously a lot of people up and down the football pyramid and around the world will have known these people and will at least trigger a trauma or a grief in them as well at this sad time. So I think maybe be a bit more respectful when watching games if people are carrying that weight on them.
I think I agree, Jimmy. It's a good, nice tribute. And as the podcast title is, it is only a game at the end of the day. And, you know, there are bigger things in the world, family and children and relatives, as you mentioned, Jim. I agree. Absolutely.
It is only a game, and a shout out to Panathinaikos, who obviously I think it's the only option they really had, but it is also, quote unquote, a fantastic gesture. They've offered to pay up the entire 3 years of George Baldock's contract to his family. He's got, I believe, a wife or a partner and a young son. It is the honourable and right thing to do on Panathinaikos' part, but you know, they play in the Greek league. They're not flush with money. but they are more than willing, obviously understandably and rightfully, to pay up the contract that George Baldock would have earned over his 3 years at the club to help support the family. So, I mean, that's scant consolation, I'm sure, but it shows that there isn't, there is still a heart in football, and seeing the Greek fans when they won in Wembley the other night, and I know we'll get on to England on a broader sense, how much it meant to them that, okay, one, they felt the game shouldn't have gone ahead, quite understandably, but then to come to Wembley and win in such circumstances, and they deserved it, they could have won by 4 or 5. It shows how much they want it and how much it meant to that national seed, who haven't had a big result really in 20 years since the Euro 2004 victory, which was obviously monumental. So huge shout out to the Greek national side, who would have all known George Baldock and played the night after his death and won, as would the England players, of course. But yeah, just all so sad. Just couldn't let it go without paying some tribute, but obviously we'll go on to more lighter and less serious subjects, like just the game of football, which again peers into mere scant insignificance compared to human life, doesn't it? Especially the little ones as well. It's just so sad.
Absolutely. On that note, Jim, we'll nice tribute from Jimmy there as we move forward to the other topics of the podcast. One of the main headlines that we've caught in the past few days, yesterday and today, obviously Deck is a Tranmere fan. Matt and Jimmy go to watch Tranmere now and again as well. So the ASAP Rocky, interested in buying Tranmere Rovers. Initial thoughts, gents. I just about know who he is. Is this come out the blue? What's the timeline on this? Anybody? Does anybody know where this came from? The Palios, have they said anything? What do we know? What do we know?
Not a lot.
Really. Go on, Matt. You go.
Not a lot. From my understanding, it's basically him. It's not him on his own wants to buy Tranmere. It's a consortium of people, and he's part of the consortium. But that doesn't sell newspapers or give you clicks online to just say, hey, Zeb Rocky wants to buy Tranmere. And it's like, well, it's not quite the case, from what I understand. It's him, a celebrity lawyer's in there. There's
Donald Trump's lawyer, this fella, as well.
Joe Tacopina.
Yeah, Italian-American kind of name. We need Deck on for this. We have got voice notes from Deck to tag on to this, who knows more than we do.
It does.
And he has been spotted at a Tranmere game, Joe Tacopina. I haven't said that right at all.
Apparently so, yeah. I mean, they want to buy allegedly 80% of the club. Obviously comes after, most famously, it's obviously Reynolds and Michael Henry buying Wrexham, and also Tom Brady now having a part in Birmingham. It appears to have some kind of legs to it. It's weird, it's odd, but then again, as is modern football in recent years. Yeah, it's 15 million quid to get 80%. Apparently, he said he will go to games. I don't know why he would do that. I do like the idea of Rihanna turning up at Birkenhead. She might see some things that she's never seen before in her life. You never know. But yeah, odd one. Whether it comes to fruition, I don't know. But you never know.
I mean, the only thing I'd say that Rihanna and Tranmere Rovers fans normally have in common is they both found love in a hopeless place. But
Brilliant. Yeah.
There it is.
Smart.
But yeah, go on, sorry, Greg.
You went to the Tranmere Bradford game. Was it at the weekend, Jim? Was there any rumours then? Did you hear anything? Was that?
No, all I heard was booing, a lot of anger, and the Bradford fans singing. Admittedly, it was absolutely dog shit.
Right.
Sorry, that's an explicit mark on the podcast episode already. No, it generally was dreadful. It was the first time I've been since I obviously moved into my new house, which was January. First time I've been in about a year, and it was atrocious. Obviously, I'll be back again. Don't worry about that. But no, I hadn't heard any real rumours about it at that point. It seems to have. I mean, it probably has been rumbling in the background for longer than we think. It's been a lot longer than obviously the mainstream media put into it. It sounds like you said, he's going to be an investor rather than the McElhenney and Reynolds takeover of Wrexham. It sounds like, like a lot of Americans like Tom Brady at Birmingham, we've alleged to, obviously, Michael B. Jordan at Bournemouth. I think LeBron James is an investor at Liverpool. There is a common trend now of American celebrities and, highly successful, rich, people in the eye of the public over in the US thinking, I'm going to invest in English an English quote-unquote soccer club. The reason for it, is it the attraction to investing in an underdog, like a lower league club, which you can't really do in the US, short of taking a club, buying out the license of a franchise in a big league, and when expansion comes up, something like that. You can't really do that in American sports. It's a totally different model, as we know, whereas, in theory, you can invest a couple of million into a non-league or League Two football club and see them rise the ranks to the point where they make, like Wrexham have done League One, even maybe get the Championship. The logistics of making the Premier League is a different ballgame altogether. Even with very rich owners, it's maybe not as rich as the other rich owners in the big league. But I think it's a tough one because, where on earth does this connection come from? Clearly, it must be through this lawyer who may well be defending A$AP Rocky in a court case, which I don't know really what's gone on there. I don't want to go into it. Obviously, it's an ongoing legal matter, so we can't discuss it, even if it is over in the US.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, always throw allegedly out there. But also, how has this lawyer, this Joe Tacopino, got involved with Tranmere Rovers in the first place? How does he know, say, Mark Palios or somebody involved at the club? I know the world's small and there with social media and connections made through business. But it's very, very niche to, like with the Reynolds and McElhinney investment in Wrexham, which is going to be the obvious comparison, as much as we don't want to compare it because it's two very different sets of circumstances. How does that come about? I suppose Wrexham, oldest club in Wales, there's a market there. What's attracted them to Tranmere? Is it the battle to fight Liverpool and Everton in the local area? Is it there's just the thought of taking the club back into at least the second division? How much of it are they going to get? What's the end game here? Is it to make a profit? Is it, which it will be? I just think it's a really unusual set of circumstances as to how this has come about and what the motivation is for anyone invested in a club. Go on, Greg.
Just on the subject of Wrexham, how well is that going down in the States in terms of Ryan Reynolds and the other fella? It can't be making headline news over there, surely, in terms of... Is it?
It's massive up there.
They've got pre-season games against Chelsea and Bournemouth, which, I think the last time Wrexham played Bournemouth for pre-season in America was a League Two fixture in about 2007. So, modern football, guys.
Okay. I take it back. Right.
Yeah, they're obviously document. Come on.
Sorry, Joe. So, mainly because the Disney Plus documentary has just got them an audience.
Yes.
So they're going over there and people know
United Airlines on board and huge brands in the US invested in this club because, Christ, I've not seen the film yet, but Paul Mullen stars in Deadpool vs. Wolverine. Spoiler alert.
You don't see him. He's in it.
Well, he's in it. He's credited as being in it, as I think is Ollie Palmer.
Welshpool.
Yeah, as Welshpool, which is from a town in Wales, which I hope they made that.
I'm guessing that was the joke. Yeah,
I'm sure that was the joke. I'm sure they must have done their research that Welshpool actually used to be a club in the Cymru Premier back in the day. Welshpool Town. Anyway, but
they must have seen it then. Surely they've seen what traction it's making in the States. It's as you say, it's on Disney Plus. It must be on Disney Plus over there. I only see it from this side of the Atlantic. I might have to actually ask my Uncle Sean, who lives in Seattle, what it's like in terms of, do they keep tabs of that? Is it in the news? Is it in the papers as much as, we only see it from this perspective, don't we, really, of we are in the, divisions, watching these teams, as fans, we don't see it from the other side, do we? But surely they must have seen what traction Wrexham can do. Well, smaller teams, that you should say. And I think it was I was listening to a podcast a couple of years ago, and it was the Crawley fella at the time, the Bitcoin fella. Was it Crawley?
Wag Me.
Yes.
No, what's it called? We're all going to make it. Yeah, Wag Me United Group or something. Yeah.
He was talking about it was a lot cheaper to buy a team over here, like a lot cheaper than any sports team over there. So that's what it'll be, possibly. Even anything.
Less
if you want a professional sports team in the US, it's you basically got 5 big leagues, including Major League Soccer now. But think about how much David Beckham paid for Inter Miami to enter the league, or any new franchise into like St. Louis City or whoever, Cincinnati in the last few years. The price of like a Dallas Cowboys, I think are the most valuable sports team in the world. It runs, Jerry Jones runs into the billions.
Yeah,
I think in terms of how much they cost. You think about how much our big Premier League teams cost. like I say, they don't have. You can't take a team from like the AA minor leagues or whatever it is in the US
Yeah.
and get them promoted. There isn't that infrastructure. It's a college system or it's a minor league affiliate system. It's unfortunately, I think it's what some American owners in this country want to do with our football, but that's a conversation for later down the line, which we won't get into tonight. We've already had enough depressing things to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what they actually are attracted to is the depth of the English pyramid. Because you go to Spain, okay, not against Spanish football, I love Spanish football, but you've got 2 professional leagues, and then you get it regionalised at the 3rd tier. You've got B teams in the 2nd tier. Germany, likewise, you've got 3 professional leagues. Then it gets to regionalisation. You've got B teams in the 3rd and 2nd tier. England, we've got all these 5 professional leagues now. Let's face it is 5. With all first team clubs for now. Again a conversation for later down the line. That one. So maybe that's what attracts them is the idea that you can take a club from absolute obscurity and you don't have to spend, whatever billions of pounds on a franchise for expansion in a major league.
Yeah.
You can build it up over years and years and years, and maybe that's what they like. They see that as romantic because it is compared to a focus group putting up with, a new expansion name for a new team in MLB or whatever, or relocating a team to a city because they've got a bigger city and a bigger market. It's much more romantic to take a Wrexham or whoever, build them up the leagues. I mean, to us, it's not. We just see it as complete, whatever it is.
Find them at the top.
Yeah, exactly. But to them, that is a much more romantic story. Hence why a lot of American people have so invested in the Wrexham documentary and the story is because they see it as a real rags to riches kind of underdog that's fallen on hard times. The club did need to go out of business. Ask any genuine Wrexham fan. They were crowdfunded to save the club years ago. Let's have it right here. But yeah, they will see it as a real romantic story, whereas obviously over this side of the water, we'll go, well, it's not that romantic going up twice in 2 years because you pump a small fortune into a club where the majority of the division haven't got a pot to piss in since COVID. So, I mean, it's different perspectives. But yeah, absolutely. It's much cheaper to invest in English football than it is in an American sport, a major league sport. I should clarify. I
suppose the variables over here as well in terms of really, if you think about it, Tamworth, if they qualify through to the FA Cup, like first round proper, you could call it, say they win the next 3 games, they could potentially be playing Chelsea, Man United, City, Liverpool. It's possible. The variables are there, aren't they? So they are, there was a rumour that about 18 months ago that they were an American consortium buying Rochdale. It didn't happen, but we were heading towards the conference. Obviously, we're in the conference. I call it the conference. But the variables are there that, even when we're, let's call it the old Division 4, we still somehow played Man United, Newcastle and Tottenham. And Tranmere obviously played Tottenham in the lower leagues. Not lower, but not top flight, shall we say. It's still possible. The variables are there. So maybe they are looking at it in that particular angle that in the League Cup, they got the League Cup, they got the FA Cup, it's possible that they could be playing, the world's best players. They could see it that way, possibly. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think that's what may well attract them to a lower division club, or if they're not a major investor, they can put a lot of money into, say, a Bournemouth, or like I think LeBron James has done with Liverpool. He's a Liverpool fan, is to invest in a major team in a top league just to see that kind of success. But I can see that attraction, but again, that brings back the question of why and how Tranmere Rovers.
Yeah.
Why and how any club, I mean, but it's just so random. Look, ultimately, if it goes ahead, it looks like it's going ahead. I hope it's something that's done sensibly. Now, from what little I know of this individual, I don't know how much of his mentality and personality is that sensible, given he is allegedly currently on trial for stuff. But I hope what any investment is done sensibly and done, doesn't go balls to the wall, spend big, get to League One, Championship, and then realise that you can't sustain it, and all of a sudden the club faces oblivion. That's the one thing I would be terrified of, is for any club, not just Tranmere, is to do like the Rushden and Diamonds thing, where you spend big, and then it all falls apart and the club goes bust within, you have a 10, 20-year period where you go from absolute obscurity to the 3rd division to back down and go bust by 2011. And yeah, that's I hope that's not how it works, how it happens. If it is to go ahead, I hope they are a bit more measured with it, and the fans are also more measured, and they don't just look at Wrexham and go, "Well, they went up 2 divisions in 2 years, so we should too." Well, it's not that linear a narrative. It has to come, at a lot of a slower developing pace with recruitment and certainly on the pitch as well as off it. So if it does go ahead, I hope there's people around them to advise them to do how to do things sensibly at League Two and then potentially League One level. Let's not get too far ahead though. Let's not start thinking the club's going to be in the Championship or higher in the next 5-10 years, because that's the moment of pipe dream for something that's not even gone through yet. So it remains to be seen.
I think also something that I noticed on the Wrexham documentary was let's call it the Wrexham Trust. We have a Rochdale Trust, which is the making sure that everything's done through correct channels in terms of if like when the Ogdens took over, it was what do you want to do with our club? You don't want to pull the assets out of it, like what happened to Bury, things like that. There's like a safeguarding, you could say, in terms of in a Tranmere perspective. I want to see if it's going to go through. I want to see the equivalent of the Tranmere Trust or the board, and I want everything to just be guarded in a weird way, because, like you say, you've seen it in terms of Rochdale Diamonds years ago. Obviously, they're still around in some capacity, but they're not in the 4th division like they used to be. I hope there's some sort of like, for instance, when the Ryan Reynolds thing, they mustn't have believed it at first when they said, yeah, Ryan Reynolds, wants to take over our club. They go, yeah, whatever. But when it does become a reality, I just hope there are certain not guidelines, but securities there that aren't going to be like, yeah, we're just going to take over your club and mess around with it. I hope there is a barrier almost to say, if you are taking over, this is what we would like you to consider, and this is what we want to be done, really, and respect the traditions of Tranmere Rovers and the fans and things like that. I think you know where I'm trying to go with that one, but I do hope that happens.
I think there's always something like that in every club. Everton have got that with the fan advisory board. I think every club. I don't know if you have to have something like it.
I think there is some kind of...
There's probably something somewhere, because I'm going to Liverpool have got them, and there'll be something somewhere. Whether you have to listen to them is another story, but they haven't necessarily got any power. But I think everyone, if you're a smart owner, you have something of that nature to make sure you're not going too far away from it. Ask Reading friends at the moment if they have got one. I have no idea. I'm sure they've got something that challenges the board or challenges...
I think Reading do have a support... Well, Reading obviously have supporters, are quite a sizable supporters trust, as well as the Sell Before We Die campaign.
Exactly. So whether
that
is challenging the ownership, whether it hasn't got any real say, it hasn't got any power, but it's got a voice.
And just a quick note on the Wrexham Disney documentary Mark II, which has moved a couple of miles down the road to Costa del Wirral, it seems. Widely reported that ASAP Rocky, Rihanna, etc. are looking to buy an 80% stake in the club for £15 million. Leading like a consortium is this Joe Tacopino. So he's obviously an American celebrity lawyer. He's been involved with ASAP Rocky, Michael Jackson, Donald Trump, etc. He's been at a number of games in recent weeks and months. It was reported that he'd looked to take us over, and it had basically fallen through, or it had all gone very quiet. But it seems he's back on the scene. And obviously the name being kind of passed around at the minute is this ASAP Rocky, who, I'll be honest, I know very little about. Anyone who knows me knows I am not into rap music at all. And for anyone who is, fair play to you. It's just not my bag. But it's my understanding that he's got a very healthy following in America, and he's got a couple of quid behind him. And obviously Rihanna has even more money behind her. So, there's two ways to look at this. Obviously, it seems imminent. Mark Palios was interviewed about it earlier on today, and he's obviously saying, that they've got the declarations, to not disclose, so that, the non-disclosure agreements, the NGAs. So obviously he can't say anything, but he was pretty clear that, you know, contact had been made and that something was very much in the pipeline. It was interesting, though, he kept referring to the fact that the club is not formally for sale, and that, you know, that they've made it, you know, clear, and they have, to be fair, for a number of years, that they're looking for investors. Now, that 80% share or stake, I don't know whether that means that he's going to stay on in some kind of capacity, maybe in some kind of director role, or maybe that there might be some kind of transitional period whereby he doesn't necessarily want to step back and just hand over the reins, that he would maybe stay in some kind of, you know, position of authority over the day-to-day running of the club. And as many faults as people kind of pull up in terms of Mark over the years, on the whole, he's turned a failing club into a very attractive buy. Obviously, the last couple of years on the pitch have been, you know, not as exciting and not as, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Exciting as we would have hoped. And, you know, teams have underachieved and so on and so forth. And, you know, poor football and decisions in terms of managers, recruitment, and so on. And it's kind of left fans a little bit bemused, really, because we've been kind of promised the earth for a few years now and nothing's really happened. But it's also very clear to see, to those people who are that little bit more switched on, we just don't have the money. The club is now in a position whereby it can, you know, go and look for that investor and take that next step. If it's another kind of Wrexham markup where, you know, money's going to be thrown in, and we're not talking astronomical amounts of money at our level, you know, a couple of million can make a big difference. I'm not, you know, denying the fact a couple of million's big money, but, you know, I'm not saying that this is going to be like, you know, your next Man City or, you know, Birmingham throwing ridiculous amounts. You know, we wouldn't need that in order to be a successful League Two side pushing for League One, and again then to be kind of self-sustaining at that level before we kind of potentially look to push on maybe to Championship in a few years' time. There's obviously a lot of other things and other factors to consider, whether they're going to look for this new ground. They keep referring to this, you know, the first sports city in Europe, in European football, and what exactly does that mean? You've also got to ask the question, is why us? You know, of all the teams that he could have got involved in, why little old Tranmere? So I think, you know, there are questions and there are concerns, but I think I'm going to try and look at this, that, you know, at some point it's going to happen. We're not always going to be owned by, you know, someone who's local and someone who, you know, wears the heart on the sleeve for the club. And it's a tough decision, isn't it, between kind of settling for that, I suppose, and going, right, we're always going to be League Two, we're going to be safe, nothing bad's going to happen, and taking that little bit of a jump, a bit of a gamble to roll the dice and kind of see what happens. Am I overly keen on the idea of a documentary and trying to do what our, in inverted commas, friends from over the border have done? Not really, but it seems to be the way to go, and that's where the money is. That's where you're going to attract, you know, new young fans, bring people back to the club, and, you know, as Wrexham have done, lots of their money now coming in terms of sponsors and endorsements and things. So it is the logical thing to do. We've seen that it can be done, and I think, you know, as a club, we're a bigger club than Wrexham were at the time in which they were taken over. You know, if you look at the catchment area of the Wirral, population-wise, there's a lot more people live, you know, locally than there are to Wrexham's ground in that kind of area of North Wales. And, you know, we're not in the conference, we're already a league side, and that to me is the biggest jump from conference to league. So we are, you know, in terms of for a buyer, an attractive proposition, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the coming days and weeks. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Up the Rovs.
Just in terms of teams that have been taken over by American personalities, Birmingham City are 1-0 up against Bolton. That's I just got a flash on the Fat Mob there. So I thought everything else is 0-0. Wrexham 0, Huddersfield 0. That was one. Tranmere 0-0. Rochdale 0-0 with Halifax. We're only 20 minutes into most of the games. But yeah, there you go. That's a bit of a live score update from myself.
Shall we move on? Where to next, gents? Navigate us through the murky waters of this podcast.
We did have a conversation about the... Well, we can make a little bit of a pit stop on the Tuchel appointment, and then we were going to go on a wider wider conversation from there, weren't we, Jim?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is to point out is it's the conversation that's been had to death since Thomas Tuchel was even rumoured to be England manager. It's something I know I put on a voice note, Matt, saying was the whole discussion about England have gone down the foreign manager route. And I think it's more specifically, let's be honest here, England have gone down the German manager route. I think that's what the real story is. Because, yes, there was vitriol and nonsense spouted when Sven got the job in 2001. In fact, I even saw the other day some article that someone wrote, which was complete nonsense, to the point where they actually made jokes about Sven's home nation. Rest in peace, by the way, Sven-Goran Eriksson. And it was like, that's not even Sweden, that's Norway. So people are just going to be thick, regardless. Let's put it that way. That was from 2001, and things clearly haven't changed in certain media outlets. But I think the big discussion is, I think there's 2 points here. What do we make of a non-English England manager, and how do we think Tuchel is as a fit as a manager for the England team?
In terms of Thomas Tuchel, good manager, got a lot of time for him. I think he's done a good job in most places that he's gone to. He's clearly top level. I agree. The discussion is not so the fact that he's a foreign manager; it's the fact that he's a German manager is clearly the issue. As I sort of said on my little voice note last week, the bigger issue here is that it's not a case of why have we gone for a German manager, is that why is there no good English manager we could have gone for? It's ultimately the question. It's more, it shows the failings of the grassroots and the coaching system, etc. That the Premier League is inundated full of English managers. How many are there? 3, 4? Top of my head.
3. You've got Howe, Dyche, and
O'Neill. Is O'Neill English?
O'Neill's English. Wow. I think that's it. Even Russell Martin's Scottish.
That's what I mean. There aren't many, and also everyone's sort of saying, "Oh, should be English managers." Well, you can't name a lot of really successful English managers in the last 20 years. There's not many that jump out straight away. Let's be honest.
I think the pertinent question is, who was the last world-class English manager?
But there you go. Therein lies the issue.
And I'm talking big trophies, club level. I'm talking
Bobby Robson, maybe.
For me, I would possibly
Robson,
say.
Barcelona. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even then, it was. What did he win in England? I'm not suggesting. I'm not suggesting that's what the Barcelona success is. He won the Cup Winners' Cup Barcelona. I think he won the league there, as did Terry Venables. But we're talking, God, Matt, guys, we were kids then. We're talking. We're talking 30 years ago. So Robson, God rest his soul, has been passed for about 15 years now.
10, 15 years easily.
And if we're talking about him being the last world-class English manager.
But therein lies the issue. If you look at the names that were being thrown around, you had Eddie Howe, who apparently wasn't approached by the FA.
Fair enough.
Graham Potter, I think, was mentioned. Who else was mentioned? The typical Lampards, Gerrards of the world. So they're all,
yeah.
Howe and Potter a little bit more experienced, but they're all fairly young managers who are still somewhat finding their feet in management in terms of definitely Lampard and Gerrard. Howe is at Newcastle doing a decent job, but you always get the feeling with him that Newcastle are just waiting to get the next big manager in. And therein lies the issue, is that if they had to, they could have poached Eddie Howe, but I don't think he really wanted the job at the same time. Potter clearly wasn't fussed once a club job and whichever comes up. So in terms of English managers, where are you left? Where are you left with someone that can go, oh yeah, perfect, they'll do the job. Yeah. That's it.
Let's go on, Greg. Sorry.
Something that I shared a screenshot the other day from Sky Sports, and it was the last trophies by English managers. We've got 4 in here from 1992 to modern day, you could call it. So 1992, Howard Wilkinson, English league title with Leeds United. Then you have to go to 1997, as we said before. Sir Bobby Robson, European Cup Winners' Cup with Barcelona. Then it's Steve McLaren, EFL Trophy Cup, 2004, Middlesbrough. And then I think the last one is actually Harry Redknapp, which is Portsmouth FA Cup triumph 2008. So really, you haven't had it's not. There's not a lot going on there, is there, since 1992 in terms of English
That's what I mean.
Cup winners?
So, unless you start setting a rule in international football that your manager has to be from the nation that you're from, which would be interesting to see. Would never happen in a million years, but can you imagine? It'd be interesting. Of course they can't do it.
I can tell you I can tell you one big reason why they can't implement that, but we'll go into that. But I think we're also forgetting, by the way, Steve McLaren's Eredivisie triumph with FC20. I think about 2009.
Of course,
you can't. No, to be fair, when you beat Ajax, PSV Eindhoven in a final to an Eredivisie title with FC20, that is actually some.
You also forget that he was also England manager and was.
He was England manager before that, and then failed miserably, and then took the FC20 job. Did well, got the Wolfsburg job as they were Wolfsburg were defending Bundesliga champions and did shit. So I mean, there is that.
There you go.
But if you're going to go on pure stats,
this is the thing. You're also looking at. So the FA clearly wanted someone who they can look. They've seen. Southgate is the epitome of. If we'd have gone for a Howe or gone for Potter or whatever else, it's kind of the same manager to a certain extent. Maybe a bit more progressive in terms of football. Pretty much the same eyes.
No. Graham Potter was a turtleneck. Let's not.
Fair point.
Let's not.
Fair point.
It's
just with Chelsea and down his there. But on that, so they clearly wanted someone who was at a level above because they realised that you've got a generation of players or group players here who can win a major tournament. They can. They've proven this in the last 3 tournaments that with maybe just a bit more, I don't know what that manager would bring, but something to that squad, they're clearly good enough to go and win a major tournament. So they went out and they got the best they thought, they think, is available at the time. And that manager is just not English. And they haven't been for a while. There's a reason, again, that all the big clubs around the world aren't getting English managers because there aren't fucking many of them. Any of them, you could argue. So herein lies your problem. You can't sit here and say, it's shocking that, we've got a German manager. Yeah, take a look at yourselves first. There's a reason why there's no England managers. It's because the coaching fees are fucking scandalous compared to the Spanish, the Germans, Italians,
the
whatever else.
Yeah,
the Dutch in particular. There's a reason the Premier League is full of Dutch and foreign managers. It's because they make sure they get the qualifications you need. Whereas England, you're battling the system constantly. So take a look at yourselves first before you stop talking about how, it's bloody shocking how he's a German manager. Don't give a shit where he's from. He could be from fucking Mars for all I care. They win a tournament. Great. A part of me thinks it'd be quite funny for us to go and win a first tournament with a German manager. It'd be fucking hilarious.
I mean, it would be quite funny.
Anyway, rant over.
Yeah. I wouldn't care where they're from. I wouldn't care where they're from, really. They could be from...
No.
Doesn't matter.
It's very English to claim someone else as our own, isn't it, really?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's say no more on that one.
In keeping, let's be honest.
Yeah.
We've got a German royal family, so I mean...
Well, exactly.
Splitting hairs at this point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sort of sticking on this particular route, Jimmy, you came up with a concept, shall we say, in terms of...
Sorry, Greg, can I just point out that just before we move on.
Sorry,
really,
go for it.
Yeah, if that's okay. No, sorry. Is that first off, it is okay to say that the England national team manager should be English. The Ottoman word being should. It's okay to prefer an English manager. Doesn't make you an absolute gammon. However, you've got to accept the failings of the. It falls to me not surprisingly, at the door of 2 separate organisations. First off is the Premier League, because it's marketed itself so massively and it's become so rich that it can afford to cherry pick whoever from wherever. Why bother developing young English coaches, players from the lower divisions, when you can go out and get ready-made superstars from around other parts of the world, where it is cheaper to become a manager, and there's so much money on the line in the Premier League. Why, you can get cheaper managers to go and get you more money. It's, low risk, high reward, whatever you want to call it. And with the Premier League side of things, if we look at English managers that are of that generation, sort of aged 45 to 60, which I don't know if Howe actually is 45 now. He certainly looks young for it if he is, and Potter likewise. We're kind of coming out of the back end of that perception of these English dinosaur managers. Okay, Allardyce was England manager for all of one game. We know what went wrong there. There are
win
other
record.
English managers around the time, and other British managers. I specify British managers because like some Moyes and Pulis aren't actually English, of course, that and are harshly branded as dinosaurs. Are actually quite tactically astute. Look at Moyes at West Ham. Pulis at Stoke did the best with what he did. But we've got that generation of managers that probably should be of an age where they should be England's international manager, but they're either dropping down the divisions because that's the jobs that's available for them, or they've completely walked away from football. Allardyce has just turned 70 the other day, admittedly, so he's probably a bit old now regardless. And I think that's a failing on the FA, that they've focused so much on player development in the last 20-odd years, St George's Park, and the technical advancements that's come with, for example, Guardiola, another non-English person coming in as a manager into the Premier League, and the blueprints he set, and Wenger before him. I'd have got Arsene Wenger in the FA as soon as I possibly could, genuinely, because I think I wouldn't have his manager, but I'm having somebody who could advise, certainly a bit like a Jurgen Klopp at Red Bull, as that's going to be in January. The playing side has massively gone way beyond the management. The management development is so far behind in terms of where we are compared to other nations. The playing side, I've got no doubt, yes, mentally, they're even more working on that now with penalties and just getting through big occasions, and the technical side of things as players, we focus so much on that as a nation with youngsters at grassroots level, which is brilliant. But like you say, the cost of, I wanted to do my level 2 a couple of years ago, it was far too expensive and I had no need for it. In other countries, I could have got up to level 2, UEFA B, C, whatever, maybe. I'm not saying I would have been a future national team manager, far from it, but I could have done something with it with the right amount of funding. This country, it's too expensive. And the actual coaching methods are just starting to be implemented in young, up-and-coming English coaches now, which we will see in 10, 15, 20 years' time, hopefully, the fruition of that with managers that we wouldn't have even thought about. But there seems to be a real delay in the development from the FA in coaching and development of English coaches, but also a lack of duty of care from the Premier League, because they've gone, we don't give a fuck about England. As a country, not just the national team, we are the world's league now. We are not England's league, we are the world's league. And as is their right as a business, we'll just pick whoever we want from wherever we want because we've got the money to do it. And these guys are more qualified than you lot. It's business.
Look at the epitome of that. I'm only saying this. I've got the Villa game on my iPad. Look at where Steven Gerrard had that Aston Villa team. Albeit, yeah, it's changed a little bit in the past couple of years. And then Unai Emery comes in, and then Alpine Champions League football. If ever you need to see the gap in quality of management between two nations, it's that. And Steven Gerrard has now gone off and he's in Qatar or Saudi, whichever one he's in. I'm sure he's absolutely fine, counting his pounds and whatever else. It's great. But managers, again, especially in the Premier League, you're not given a chance to develop. And the best one, I mean, he did well at Rangers, but then Scottish football is an extremely different beast to English football, even just going down to the Championship and that kind of thing. Yeah, I agree. It's more of a failing on the system that's currently in place rather than, well, they've just gone for the German manager. It's nothing to do with the fact that he's German. It could have been anyone from anywhere, and the same issue should and would have still come up, which is that why haven't we got an England manager? Why haven't we got 3 or 4 of them that we're all going, oh, you know what, he'd do a bloody good job. Oh, yeah, that's a real... Who the hell would you pick out of those 4 instead of just being, well, we got fucking anyone? Should we give it to Graham Potter because he's done all right at Brighton? Well, yeah, no bloody one. They went for a guy who's won all sorts and managed around Europe and is used to managing players of that ability and that dynamic and everything else. But yeah, I bloody would. Yeah, anyway, it's maybe that's just a normal argument compared to he's German. Boo!
Yeah, I think you've got a point there with direct comparison as well. Frank Lampard, Chelsea manager, got through the Champions League group, which was, I think, involved Rennes and a couple of other teams that aren't the strongest. He loses his job. Thomas Tuchel, of all people, comes in, beats Atletico Madrid, Porto, Real Madrid, and Pep's Man City to win the Champions League with the same bunch of players. If that doesn't, in direct contrast, show the difference between a young English manager and an established German manager, who were both candidates for this job, clearly, if you believe the media, then I don't know what does. I know it was a couple of years ago now, but I don't know what more proof you need that one is significantly more successful than the other.
Exactly.
Anyway, apologies, Greg, for that little sidebar. We were going to move on to something else that we had an idea of. I don't know if you wanted to introduce it a little bit, just to...
Yes, okay. Just a quick one, just before we do move on. I think there's just a quick mention for, is it Anthony Barry? So basically, Anthony Barry played in the National League for Accrington. It says Chester, Wrexham, Fleetwood and Forest Green. I think he is now Thomas Tuchel's number 2 in the England setup.
Yes.
That's something to be celebrated, I understand that. I know we're in the wider scheme of what we're talking about in terms of the foundations of who could be England manager and what is there available. That's something nice that I saw on the Vanarama National League Facebook group about Anthony Barry. What's your quick thoughts about that, lads?
I mean, yes, it's something to celebrate, but he's only an assistant manager.
Well, yeah, I guess
that
so.
sounds harsh. Only.
Well,
when I say only, that's a real sort of like
team as Rooney.
When I say only, I don't mean only as he's only. That's a really good achievement, but
I know what you mean.
Therein still lies the issue. So you've got people getting to a point where he's excellent enough to be the number 2 when they should be looking at number 1.
Yeah,
and that's not anything on Anthony Barry. It's an amazing achievement. But that just showed that either again that could be an example of someone that, if given the right chance at the start of it, if given the investment, if allowed to do the coaching badges, the cheaper and whatever else, you could be talking about someone then who then progresses up and becomes a better quality manager. To then take it on his own. He might well be, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my initial thoughts. Congratulations, but it kind of shows the issue on a whole.
Hello, listeners. Apologies that I am not formally on the recording this evening. I've just got in from a very long day in work, and I'm back out the door shortly to go and watch Tranmere. So, just a little input from me, really. Obviously, there's been a lot happen in English football since the last time we've been on the pod. Obviously, change of England manager. Generally quite happy with the appointment. I think he brings the experience of winning trophies to the team, which, let's be honest, we haven't had. And all of this, the England manager needs to be English, blah, 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 blah. Look at all of the English managers that we've had. With the exception of Southgate, we've had zero success. They also bring or have brought very limited experience in terms of actually winning things. We've had a couple of FA Cups, and that's probably about the height of it. And, you could arguably throw Southgate in there. Yeah, he's brought us to loads of finals, he's brought the team on, but actually how much of that has been Southgate and how much of that has just been that we've got some very good players now? We've got a good, cohort of players. Under other managers, would they maybe have gone and won? You could argue, yes, that kind of winning mentality, taking away the pressure of, we've won nothing since 66. I think it needs a manager with broad shoulders and someone who knows how to go and win. And I feel like Southgate obviously just didn't have that cutting edge. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Just a quick news flash on some of the latest scores, and then we'll get on to the next topic that Jimmy's just mentioned. Half-time, Birmingham 1-0 against Bolton. Half-time, Wrexham 0, Huddersfield 0. Half-time, Wimbledon 0, Morecambe 0. Half-time, Tranmere 0, Grimsby 0. Half-time, Rochdale are winning 1-0, and I think it's Kieran Gordon has scored 1-0. 39 minutes gone for Arsenal against Shakhtar Donetsk in the Champions League. Arsenal are winning 1-0. I think it looks like an own goal. Yes, own goal. And I think Matt's got the Aston Villa game on. I think it's 38 minutes 0-0. So there's quite a lot of 0-0s, but that's the latest scores as it stands.
Tell you one game that isn't 0-0. Real Madrid 0, Borussia Dortmund 2.
Dortmund 2, look.
And one of the goal scorers is English, Jamie Gittins.
Let's get in.
There we go.
But he's not German.
Forget it. Yeah, exactly. Englishman scoring for a German team in the Champions League.
Shocking. That's on the Daily Mail.
What is this utter woke nonsense?
How dare they? How dare they?
I do also, by the way, enjoy the fact we're giving live score updates to a podcast that goes out tomorrow.
You see, right. I quite like this when podcasts do this because I get a smug sense of satisfaction of knowing more than the podcasters do. People can listen back to this guy, you fucking idiots.
Anyway?
You fucking idiots.
If only you know what's happening.
It ends in a 4-4 draw. You've got no fucking idea what's coming, you lot.
It's
What do you
Yeah,
mean
as Madrid
PSV
were-
Eindhoven are winning 1-0 at PSG? PSG end up winning 6-1, you fuckers. You're making fun now. I know what really happens, you in the past little non-know-it-all bastards.
I do like the token timestamp, as I'm going to call it.
Indeed. Yeah, I'm just checking through my unnamed app. Other apps are available. Yeah, there's just some scores there. Yeah, it's all going okay. Yeah, so on the Tuchel to England whole thing, people will be saying, "Oh, we had Sven, we had Capello. Other nations don't have foreign managers," and well, we know why Spain and Germany don't hire foreign managers because they've got better pathways and better managers. I thought it'd be interesting if we could look at, again, nothing in massive depth, but not foreign managers who come to manage the England national team, but conversely, English managers who've gone abroad to manage foreign national teams. And there's some obvious ones that come to mind. I think without even researching, there'll be a few names, obviously ex-England managers that have also managed foreign national teams, but there's a couple that, if you don't know, are absolutely fucking wild careers of where they've been to.
I found
but
some,
lads,
absolute
yeah,
crackers.
you find some absolutely head the ball ones. It's fucking
Oh.
amazing. I don't know if you want to start, lads. I mean, I've got an honourable mention, but then I've got one or two I would like to just briefly skim over,
Yeah.
This is just going to be us listing countries, isn't it? It's just going to be,
Yeah.
if you want to skip this bit, lads, then please do. But yeah, it's just going to be us listing random countries. It's going to be great content.
Well, I've got two, but yeah, I'll go first and I'll get them out of the way. I managed to find one of them was quite an easy one, but the second one's a very unusual one that I'd never saw coming. But anyway, first one, I found an ex-Rochdale player who's the head coach in the States. It's Sean McCauley, ex-Hartlepool, Scunthorpe United and Rochdale. I remember him playing for Rochdale. He's now the manager of Indy 11, which is in the USL Championship, which is the same division as the Tampa Bay Rowdies, which I thought was quite an unusual unusual route.
Joe Cole played for Tampa Bay Rowdies at some point, just as a random offshoot.
He did, and I think he really enjoyed it.
Matter.
He really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I remember he was on a podcast talking about that, and he just wanted to play football, basically. And a different experience, I think, was the other spin you could say on that. Fair play to Joe Cole. The second one was a very unusual one. This is a real name, by the way. This isn't one that I've made up. Charlie Trout, ex-Lincoln City, is the manager of the Puerto Rican national side.
Yes, I saw him on my research, Charlie Trout.
I was like, well, how do I not know about this? Is the first thing. But, so basically, there's a little screen grab. Charlie Trout, real name. I couldn't believe it, and I thought, right, okay, so screen grab, here we go. He took over the Puerto Rican national side in 2003 after having spent his managerial previous reign as the under-21 squad. His leadership has been credited with installing discipline and tactical structure into the Puerto Rican team. The team has recently shown promise under his guidance, notably tying with El Salvador and achieving an 8-0 victory against Anguilla in the quest to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Could you imagine if an England Englishman managing another nation goes into the World Cup? I know Roy Hodgson would have done it in the past, obviously.
I think Roy Hodgson did do it possibly with Switzerland in '94, but yeah, I mean, something like Puerto Rico, where it's an overseas territory of the US, or basically an overseas dependency of the US, not even its own country, that'd be madness. I don't think somehow Puerto Rico, given the talent on show they've got, are going to get through the CONCACAF region of World Cup qualifying, although, there's 3 host spots already there, so it's open up to any other 3 or 4 national teams to make it through. They might do.
Yeah. So
on the subject, by the way, sorry, just you mentioned Anguilla. I saw a video the other day on YouTube of a very famous a football YouTuber who spotted an Anguilla player who had dreadlocks down to his waist and had to actually, because he is a devout Rastafarian, part of his culture obviously is to have the dreadlocks, to the point where he had to actually tie his dreadlocks around his waist to play a game of football.
Wow.
Look it up. I've forgotten the guy's name. It's fantastic. And the fact he's still an international footballer and far better than anyone that was at football, despite carrying this significant amount of hair right down his back, I think is spectacular. And he's one of my new favourite players as Anguilla International. I'll have to look him up and give him a shout out at the end of the pod. It's amazing.
I'm gonna have to.
Anyway,
I'll Google
complete
that.
random side note.
So yeah, I'll pass on my Charlie Trout information to whoever wants to go next. Basically,
Have you got anyone, Matt, or have you?
I've got Oscar winner Stephen Taylor. Who married
Oscar winner the Stephen Taylor.
The Stephen Taylor, Oscar winner for his acting in that handball, as we all know.
Of course, yes.
Managed in the UAE, Gulf United, back-to-back promotions from the third tier to the top flight, and apparently has now been announced as a new coach. I do remember reading this back in April of the Dubai-based club Al Kabila. I'm going to pronounce it. If it's wrong, apologies. But I do remember him on Twitter somewhere reading it of him having the presentation. But yeah, that's maybe when I thought. I just remember because I thought it'd be quite fun to call him Oscar winner. And obviously, one more common one was Phil Neville, who has done a interesting job over in the States. Let's go for that, shall we?
Yeah, and former England women's manager, former Inter Miami manager. Obviously, he left and Inter Miami started getting good. Can't think of any other reason why.
And his famous spell in Valencia with Gary Neville.
He was assistant. He was Gary Neville's assistant. Well, I forgot he was actually his brother's assistant at Valencia.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Do you think? I was thinking about this the other day. Do you think there's an alternative universe where Gary Neville was really good at Valencia, then got a Barcelona job, and then became the first English manager of the Spain national team? Because I really hope that exists somewhere.
He was pretty bad, so
he was
could be
horrendous. So in the alternative universe, he was like the Pep Guardiola.
It could be crap in all universes. You never know.
Yeah, I suspect
it's never possible.
What was the?
I suspect he maybe.
Yeah, what's the one he has with Gary Neville and Roy Keane? What's the stick to football?
The overlap.
And he was talking about when he was Valencia manager, and I think they had Rafa on. Is there an episode where they have Rafa on?
Yeah.
What was it basically? Gary Neville said did he have a bit of beef with Rafa when Rafa was the manager of Madrid, or was there something where he wouldn't shake his hand? Was there something there? I'm going to have to go back into that now.
Not sure. There might have been.
Because Benitez is...
Icy?
How do I word this nicely?
I mean, Rafa Benitez is famously a people person.
Yeah, commonly known to
famously really loved for his personal skills.
Yeah. Ask many players you played for them.
Even Gerrard and Carragher will tell you how personal he was during their most successful period. Honestly,
Carragher, that was it. Carragher was talking about Benitez as well. I'll keep this one short. I think he said basically when Rafa first came to England, he didn't know some of the translated words. Like he didn't know what the word he didn't know the word substitute. So I think he just kept shouting like shower, Carragher, shower, meaning get off and have a shower, basically. But something along those lines about the translation got lost there, and it was basically he was just shouting the word shower at people. That could be shower of shit. It could be go and have a shower. He may have well meant that. We could say. Over to you, lads. On that.
No, I will again personally say any personal dealings I have had with Rafa Benitez, although very limited, have actually been. He actually has come across as quite a nice bloke. So I will actually say that I've had no issue with him.
Yeah, not a fan of him as a foot manager, but
I've heard stories of his management style. But personally, I think he's probably a very nice guy.
The work he's done for Liverpool as well since.
Oh, him and his wife in the city of Liverpool and stuff. Yeah,
I can't really fault him for that.
Can't fault him.
As a manager, still.
Oh, awful for Everton. Never fitted. No. And anyway, besides the point. Like we've been through that. Go back and listen to various podcast episodes for 3 years.
Full episode on.
Were we doing this podcast?
Many episodes on that man.
Did we start this? Oh my god, we did.
We were still under Ancelotti when we started this podcast.
I blissfully forgot.
Does that not make you feel old?
Just a bit.
There's basically an episode about your thoughts of Rafa being announced as the Everton manager, and I think it's a double whammy because you got a new manager in the same week that Rochdale did or something, and we both started talking about new managers, and he needed to succeed quite quickly and things like that from my memory.
And he didn't.
It didn't. No.
He beat Huddersfield in the League Cup, and then it went downhill from there.
No. We beat Southampton in the first game of the season.
Yeah, and then we beat Huddersfield in the League Cup, and then it went downhill from there.
That was about it. Yeah.
Fair. Wow. Right, as regards English managers abroad, I have looked at international teams purely because the whole thing's been about the English manager should be English, mate. Yeah, that solid impression. I want to give an honorary mention first of all to a guy who is also a podcaster, who I have had interaction with on very, very vaguely on Twitter, This is a man called Paul Watson. Now, you may or may not know Paul Watson as of the Superpod. He very famously decided to become an international football manager and started a national team on the Micronesian island of Pohnpei, known as literally the worst national football team in the world. He actually wrote a book about it, and I think about 2009, called Up Pohnpei, where he basically hobbled together a bunch of lads from this small island and created something resembling a national football team. Now, he's not my actual story because technically it's cheating, because it's not a FIFA-affiliated national team, and he's not a manager. He's a guy who's former semi-pro player, now does a podcast, which I will plug quite happily for free. The Super Podcast is bloody wonderful. It is the most random football content you can ever ask for. It's amazing. And also he's comedian Mark Watson's brother. So there's a random aside. But I would definitely give it a listen. And also he's involved now with football and trying to get stuff in Micronesia involved. And he likes to just go off to random parts of the world and watch and get involved with football. So a shout out to him. But my actual focus is going to be a gentleman called Stephen Constantine, who you may have heard of or may know of. Those who've played Championship Manager for long enough are probably aware of his work. Quite simply, Stephen Constantine was born in London and is actually on the FIFA, if I get this right, the FIFA Elite Coaching Panel.
Well, fair play to him.
He's English, he's on the FIFA Elite Coaching Panel, and he's not being considered for the England job. Why is that, you ask? Well, if I list off the list of countries alone that he's managed, it'll give you some idea. Well, first off, he did have a playing career. We don't know when. There's no real stats on it. He's played for 2 teams, according to Wikipedia. One called Pennsylvania Stoners. Nice. The other called New York Pancyprian Freedoms. I literally have no clue who those teams are. But that's not why we're here. What we're here for is his managerial career, which started in 1999. He's managed Nepal. He's managed India twice. Malawi, Sudan, Rwanda, and he's currently the Pakistan international team manager, famous of course for Zesh Rayman and Otis Khan. This guy has been in every backwater. He's also of Greek Cypriot descent, so he's managed in like Cyprus and some clubs. East Bengal in India. He's been all over the place. He's apparently a massive Arsenal fan, which is, again, Wikipedia. But he's just been all over the gaff, just managing national teams from all over the place. And it's absolutely wonderful. The same could be said, of course, of a gentleman called Gary White, who is currently the Taiwanese national team manager, who's managed the British Virgin Islands, Bahamas, Guam, and Hong Kong. These 2 gentlemen, get them into the FA pathway because they have done everything there is to be done with absolutely no resources. Phenomenal. But I've just got lists of English managers who've managed international teams here, one of which, if there's time, I've got a quiz on, but maybe not. But yeah, Stephen Constantine, what a guy. He's only 61 and he seems to have managed all around the world. So much so he's managed India twice. I mean, what can you say about that? Go and look him up. Him and Paul Watson and Gary White. Go and look up their stories. They're all fascinating characters. All English born. Actually, Paul was born in Canada, but regardless, English.
Those are
just so many crazy stories about English managers going abroad managing into other national teams.
Those are documentaries ready to be made. Jim. Let's get in touch with these 2 fellas and... no, I'm kidding. Get them on the pod. No, but absolutely fantastic. That's as you say, backwaters of football, different divisions. You know, there's not a huge spotlight on the teams and the nations and the areas that you just mentioned, but absolutely fair play to them for that. Do you know, if you look, it's that's a stacked CV, you could say. That's absolutely stacked of different cultures and all sorts there, Jim. Absolutely fantastic find.
Indeed. Also, last thing, did you know Terry Venables once managed Australia?
I did. I was reading up on that this week. Around 97, wasn't it? Around 97.
Yeah, just after the England job, about 97, 98.
So did he basically leave the England job to go to Australian national side, or was there a gap?
I don't think so. I think there was a gap. I think he'd already agreed to finish his contract with the FA, so I believe he Van Houten took charge.
Squad that I saw the list of players that he had at his disposal, you could say. It was a bloody good squad, that. They had Mark Viduka, Harry Kewell. There will be some more. That's just escaped.
Would have had Schwartz around that time. I mean, it was famously the embryonic beginnings of a team that would go on to beat American Samoa 31-0 in 2001. So, I mean, what What more can you say than that?
It's the
And that is a
Venables.
documentary somewhere.
The Venables effect. There you go.
Oh, that is the Venables effect, absolutely.
Wow. They're absolutely fantastic finds there, Jim. Absolutely. So, I'll just have a quick look at the scores briefly. It's all the same as it stands, yep. It's all same again. Birmingham are winning 1-0. Arsenal 1-0. Have you got the Villa game on there, Matt? What's your take from the Villa game so far?
It's been a very good game. Chance at each end, from what I can tell. Obviously, I got your sound on, but yeah.
Are we all fairly
okay
okay with Aston Villa being in the Champions League? Obviously, Everton, Aston Villa in the Premier League. Do you
jealous of it,
okay
but
with
I
that?
not
welcome
happy with
it.
Yeah?
I welcome it. I think Villa are about as similar. Obviously, they've got a European Cup, and we haven't. But they're about a similar size of club to Everton in terms of infrastructure, fan base, history. Obviously, doing a lot better than us at the moment. I absolutely welcome Villa in the Champions League. I want to see more Villa, more Newcastle in the Champions League, and less same old, basically.
I mean, is it just the fact that it's not the top 6, top 4, top 5, whatever that is, and they are going about things the right way, you could say? I mean, I have no issues with Villa. I think they're a genuine side, in my opinion. We know we've got a mutual friend, me and Jimmy, Tom Podmore, goes to quite a lot of Aston Villa home and away games. He might be there tonight, but he did go to the Munich game.
He went to
Munich
the
Munich game, and what game that was, history making.
Yeah.
What was that, the first time in how many years that they beat Bayern Munich? Was it 30?
I think it's since the 1982 European Cup final, wasn't it?
And I think that game was 1-0 as well.
That was 1-0.
Yeah, so fair play to Aston Villa. No, it's fresh. It's nice to see. And news flash: Tranmere have missed a penalty. Unfortunately, sorry to tell you about that. That was
no other round.
There you go.
Except Rocky's pulling his
It's a rocky night on.
No.
I hope Deck's okay.
Grimsby,
I hope Deck's all right
no,
there.
Tranmere missed it. Grimsby missed it.
Oh, I've done a Chris Kamara. Fair play. Oh, it's on the Tranmere bracket on FOTMob for me.
Yeah, that's the way they do it. I don't know why, but yeah, but just at their Twitter page.
Fair play.
Unless they're really happy they missed a penalty, which I'd be quite surprised if they were.
Fair play.
McGee, is he the keeper? I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, Luke McGee is the keeper, Rex Forest Green, yeah.
Yeah, he saved it.
Oh, I like McGee. I like his good keeper.
Wowzers. Okay,
Yeah,
Jeff.
that is weird though, how it's set out on FOTMob.
Are you looking at it the same way I am there?
Yeah, it is weird. It does look like, but from the commentary, it does say attempt. Oh no, hang on. Sorry. This is awful. Yeah, penalty save. Danny Rose, Grimsby Town, bright-footed shot saved in top left-hand corner. Yes, conceded by Cameron Norman, who is a Rovers player. Yeah, okay. But that is weird the way they've done it.
That's
but yeah, it is. Yeah.
Unless you
It's
know
weird
Danny
that
Rose
it
is in.
Yeah, but
it does say in brackets the team they play for as well, to be fair.
oh, it doesn't on mine.
So,
Fair enough.
Danny Rose in brackets, Grimsby Town,
Ah.
Cameron Norman in brackets, Tranmere Rovers.
I
So
haven't got that
yeah.
for some reason. Never mind.
don't know. You need an update, mate.
I certainly do.
Android user.
Any other?
Speaking of scores, by the way,
Yep.
I mean, I know I don't like to talk about that certain club from over the water very often because we always lose. But it's a rare occasion where Matt and I are on a podcast and Everton have not long won a game of football.
That's true.
So can you give us 2 minutes
Certainly.
just to mildly
Bask
gloat
in
in
the
this
glory.
because it might be our only last win this season. Who knows?
Unbeaten in a few games, aren't you? Actually, 1, 2, 3,
4 games
5.
unbeaten.
It's
4
true.
with 8 points.
Oh,
points.
that's
I
the
would-
EFL Cup win I'm looking at. Is it there? Did you?
Right, we got beaten.
EFL
we got
Cup
beaten-
win.
We got beat on.
No, you got beat by Southampton. Is that
Yeah.
right? Sorry.
I'm going to say EFL Cup
Sorry.
win.
Yeah.
Not yeah,
I can't remember. Penalty
don't win
wasn't it?
none of that stuff. Right.
Go for it.
None of that woken nonsense.
I'm going to start with I've only really seen the goals because
Michael Caine, mate. Michael Caine is just number 9.
I mean, what a finish! To be fair,
It's unbelievable.
prime
That's-
McCaffrey
I've-
right there from Keane.
I had to watch it and go left foot. Unbelievable finish.
Yeah.
Played well from what
Yeah.
I saw and watched. I mean, I'm going to put this with a caveat. This is going to sound harsh when I say this, but it is only Ipswich. And bless
It's-
them, they look aside who were a little bit deer in the headlights in the Premier League of like, oh, this isn't the Championship.
It's
This
bad,
is a
innit?
bit more serious. Which is hard because, look at Burnley last season, look at Luton to a certain extent last season, or the few teams that came up or went down again. But yeah, it is showing the gulf in quality between the Championship and the Premier League. I mean, they look at the best game of the weekend. Really was Southampton-Leicester, which were two recently promoted sides who both played in very similar way. And Leicester have got the odd result in the league this season, and they drew against us, etc. And Southampton
beat Bournemouth, didn't they? And
I think it was Bournemouth, wasn't it? But if you look otherwise, looking at the two other sides who haven't got a win yet, or had a draw each, I think, between the two of them. Sorry,
they drew with each other. Southampton Ipswich drew 1-1 at St Mary's.
Yeah, that's right. And then Ipswich have had a couple of the draws here and there, haven't they?
Yeah.
But you can see the bottom four as it currently is. I mean, I don't know. We're only 8 games in, not that far in, 9 games in, whatever it is. Wolves is a worrying one, just in the manner of how they're losing games, and also the points. The goal difference already against them. But yeah, I think looking at Southampton and Ipswich, I'd be worried if I was a fan of those two clubs. And then Palace just haven't replaced who they lost. No. They lost to Elise over the summer. Yeah. And I just lost.
They nearly lost Gahey. They might lose him in January, and it's like that's a worry for me.
If Eze chooses to go, whether he will, I have no idea. But they just look, really suspect. I mean, against us, the first half they battered us, but pardon me, that second half where we actually turned up and played some football, got two goals in the second half. I'd be worried. I didn't watch them against Forest last night, but the game didn't sound like classic. No, it struck me as contractual obligation football.
Yeah,
in terms of Monday Night Football.
Contractual obligation.
Got to have someone on.
Got to have all 20 teams on. We'll shove them on Monday night.
Yeah. Don't really want to show this, but fuck it.
Yeah. If no one can't show Liverpool United, so we'll just shove 2 teams. Yeah. I think go back to the point on Ipswich. It is worrying, and I like Ipswich, and I've always liked them as a club. I've got nothing against them. And obviously, I'm not going to gloat because we've beaten them, because they may well come to gut us and turn us over later in the season. It can happen. But it's troubling now, and it speaks volumes about the gulf in the Premier League to the Championship. But a team can come up, has come up 2 divisions in 2 years, could spend £150 million and still look during a game way out of their depth against an abjectly mediocre at best Premier League side than Everton.
There were 2 things I noticed.
We are not a good side, and yet,
The 2 things I noticed: one, we looked physically fitter and looked a more daunting side. And the second one, and this is from an Evertonian saying this, and again, I agree, we are shite, for lack of a better word. You saw the difference in how quickly you could be punished. That first goal in particular is a prime example. In the Championship, you might probably get away with that. Ball bounce is clear, all right, you might go, but it was literally the ball. I can't remember who the defender was. It comes on the defender, and in 2 touches within a second, it's in the back of the net. And that's always going to be your issue. That what Everton have done well enough in the past couple of years is just being good enough to stay up, because we've always been a bit more clinical and hard to beat as well, you'd argue, than those teams below us. And that's going to be the issue again for this season. I think we should hopefully be okay. After a tough start, we're starting to look a fitter side. We're starting to look a bit more like the side that we had last season, which, didn't light up the league. Of course it didn't, but they were tough to beat. That'll show more on Saturday against Fulham. But I did feel for them a little bit, because it's that thing of you spent all this money, but you still look like a Championship team who was coming up and trying to find your feet. And they might prove me wrong. They might get a few results together. There are some good players in there. I think Liam Delap is a really good player. But I think defensively is where they're really going to struggle, and they have been found out already. Put it that way.
Do you think, talking about obviously teams getting punished, looking at Southampton and Ipswich namely as they've come up from the Championship, obviously Southampton have bounced back. They've both got young, I'll say British managers, Russell Martin Scottish, Kieran McKenna Northern Irish, but they've cut their teeth in England, worked their way through the FA or through the English system anyway. And this ties into an earlier point, but also a point about the style of football, which I was listening to these Football Times with Gary Thacker, who we've had on the podcast, about style of play being implemented up and down the divisions. And it's a case of it's all very well and pretty when you've got the players. And you can be a newly promoted team, or a team in the lower division, have the better players, play an attractive style, pass out from the back, pass it back to the keeper, control the ball, and percentage-wise, it's better for you when you've got the players. but we're finding these teams then go up a division, like Burnley last season, play the same way and get found out when they haven't got the better players to play it. Do we think, one, that's what we're finding is the case with namely Southampton and Ipswich, but obviously there are other teams as well that happens to. They come up, trying to play the same way and haven't got the personnel to implement that same style. And then are we finding that's going to then impede on young, and I'm going to say British managers, but obviously English managers going forward, where they have that success lower down, playing that new style that the FA want to bring in as a blueprint, which I totally understand why, because it has been statistically recognised as the better, the more attractive and also more successful way of playing if you've got the players. It's been recognised that your midfielder trying to yeet it in from 40 yards out isn't the best statistical way of scoring a goal. No shit, Sherlock. But do we think that's kind of going to be a problem going forward? Is teams going up, trying to play the same way, not having the ability to, getting found out the back, getting punished at a high level, and also how that's going to reflect on young managers who try and implement this style, but just haven't got the resources available at the highest level to succeed and then progress in their own career?
Yeah, I think also as well, you're looking at the Premier League where there's such a pressure financial pressure, let's be honest, to be even just, as long as you're 17th, doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter where you finish as long as you don't get relegated. And ultimately, to survive in the Premier League when you're a weaker team, there's a way you have to play football. And it's a real shame because I wish it wasn't. I wish that we had, even Everton as we currently are. I would love for us to be playing attacking football. I'd love for us to be, playing off at the back and being really progressive. I'm also not an idiot to know that if we did that, we'd be picked up every bloody week. We'd be down there before you know it. The players and the style that we've got, this is why I can understand Everton's fans' frustration about Sean Dyche, but at the same time, this is why I'll always give him credit with whatever he's given. And he's been given, let's face it, a pound of crap at Everton at times. He's moulded it into at least a team that is difficult to beat, and that's ultimately why he'll be fine in the Premier League. And you might, if he were to leave Everton next summer, if there's new owners come in, he'll get a job. We're probably by the November of a team who have probably just come up or have tried a certain way and it hasn't worked, it hasn't succeeded for them, and they'll need someone to go back to basics. Be tough to beat and go from there. It's a tough one. I really feel for the managers that come up because you can see them eager to do this style, and all of a sudden it's that you just get shat on by a team that's going to finish 13th, but are just tough to beat and would just punish you because they got a slightly higher quality of player, and that's it really.
And I've got infinitely bigger resources than you as well, budget-wise, because they've been in the Premier League for an infinite amount of years. They've got all the prize money coming from finishing the league, the TV money, and they've got a head start on you, and that's the way the Premier League is just now, and I can see why people become disillusioned with it. Certainly when the top sides rock up, it's like, what's the point? But saying that, there's still a lot of the season to go yet. And it is great to win an away game. But we haven't done that since Burnley last season in the league.
The first one of the calendar year.
Which, that's depressing. It's October. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I will say is we got an Everton away win before GTA 6. So that's something.
That is true.
There you go.
That is true.
That is the only positive I can get. Anyway, Greg, Dale currently winning, but I noticed, was it the TV game on Saturday evening? Defeat at home to Southend, but all in all, how's life in the National League? How's things under McNulty going? Where you expect it to be, or just reflection on how the season's been so far?
I'm enjoying it so far. We're we're 5th place. I'm sure we're 5th. That's 4th currently, as it stands. We're beating one of our old rivals as it stands, Halifax. We've had some cracking games at the Shea. I think it's the Shea. It was anyway. I'm enjoying it so far. I haven't really got a lot of beef. There's a few games where we've lost by 1 goal, and I think really generally I was talking to my dad about this. If you are going to lose a game, it has to be by 1 goal, and if it's a good goal, sometimes you just go, fair enough. Like we've been beat 1-0. The worst things have happened. We've been battered 6-0 and 5-0 and 4-1, whatever in the past. I caught glimpses of the Southend game. I caught the highlights on YouTube. Southend, they looked decent last season. I'm glad they're in a better shape now than they have been in the previous months, or however long you want to call that. There was a timeline where things were looking shit for Southend. So I have no issues. I think there's other Dale fans on my group chat that are basically saying that McNulty doesn't really. It takes a lot for him to adapt to certain situations. So we're losing 1-0, and he doesn't make the substitutions to try and get the goal back. Or if he does, it's almost Southgate-esque, where it's 87 minutes gone. Too late. What can you do with 3 minutes or 5 minutes? Things like that. So there is a bit of. I know that's a poor comparison, Southgate, but that's the only one I could think of. I'm enjoying it so far. I haven't really got any gripes. Sometimes when we're in the old Division 4, or even in League One, when we were getting battered by, yes, it was nice to play these teams. You would get the odd surprise that would relegated, like you would get like sometimes Sunderland, Bolton, Blackburn. We were playing those now and again, and you think, oh yeah, that'd be good. I'm up for it. And even Ipswich, we played them at home once, and we just get pasted. Really, we just get pasted. And like my dad used to take his crossword book with him. I don't know if he still does, but. The point I'm making is I'm probably enjoying it now more than I have done for a while, since probably the Hill days. I know, obviously, I do talk a little bit of love for Keith Hill and those days, but you're entitled to enjoy your glory days as individual football fans. But I have no issues with what we're doing at the minute. I think it's the sustainability of it all, of the Ogdens that have took over. Obviously, we've spoke about this briefly, the millionaires that are local sort of Rochdale folk, but they don't live in Rochdale. They've pumped their money into colleges and different things like that in like the Midlands. So they're sort of genuine people. It's not this is what sort of I hope doesn't happen to Tranmere in terms of the rumours of this star coming along and just sweeping it away, and we don't know what could happen. Really, like ideally, if you did want somebody taking over, you would probably want it to be either a fan or somebody who's level-headed, and that's happened to us. It's somebody from the area originally, and things are looking okay so far. I think the plan that they've got in place is to try and get us out the conference within 3 years. They gave Jim McNulty a 3-year contract, which is very unusual in the conference. You don't see a lot of managers getting multi-year contracts, basically. So it's an unusual for the conference to get a multi-year deal, really. If your Barnetts and your Yeovilles, you don't really get that. You get a 1 year and see how you get on. But I've got no issues. I'll keep it short and sweet now. But Ian Henderson had an evening with Ian Henderson on Saturday after this Southend game. I missed. I couldn't attend it. But that was a nice touch because it's his last season at Rochdale. It was just nice for the fans to have a night with him and conversations, almost like a sportsman's dinner, you could say. He's got another one. I don't know why he would need two of these, but he's going to have another one in February with past players and managers that have, like Keith Hill will be there, and maybe Gary Jones or somebody along those lines. So he's got another one of those in February. Yeah, so if we can win tonight, that'd be great. Keep us in the playoffs. York City are doing quite well. They're above us in the league. They're third. They were going on a hell of a run at one point. I've got no real issues apart from if Jim can just sort of adapt a little bit more. I mean, it's fourth is great, really. Let's look at it like that, really. Fourth, we're in the playoffs. But I think if he can adapt to certain situations a little bit quicker, in terms of when we are getting beat, let's try and do something about this. Let's react to it. But I don't know. There's only so much planning you can do, I guess, in a football game. Happy. Fourth. Bring it on. As long as we stay, hassle the playoffs. That's all I've got to say. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That tastes like promotion to me.
Yes. We'll do a few...
shall we...
Sorry,
quiz questions and then...
Sure, let's do a few quiz questions, then we can shoot off.
Absolutely.
So, have you got a few quiz questions, Jim? Or I've got 3, but I can narrow it down if you want me to.
I've got an open-ended one. If you want me to do it, I can do it. It's related to Englishmen managing a national team abroad. I don't know if you want me to do it or not. You know what my quiz questions can be like.
Sure, let's go for it. Let's get it done.
Okay, you may regret this. Basically, there have been 3 Englishmen that have managed the Thailand national team. Now, Clue. They've all managed the Thai national team. They're all ex-England internationals. They've all won the English League.
Oh.
Okay, so
Assuming as players, not as managers.
As players, yeah.
Oh.
As players. I had to think about that for a second then. As players, yeah. Who are they? The 3 Englishmen who've managed the Thai national team. You will definitely know of 2 of them, and we've alluded to 1. Okay, you'll definitely know 2, and the other one is a club legend at a Champions League club.
Champions League club. Right, I'm just going to go straight out the bat. Harry Redknapp.
No. I can see why you thought that, though.
No, I'm going to go younger for this. I'm thinking people that won it in the 90s.
Their playing days were sort of 80s, early 90s.
Oh. Playing days?
They've won the Premier League.
I didn't say Premier League. I said they've won the English League.
Won the English
I didn't say they won the Premier League. Matt, you'll definitely know one of them.
Thailand.
I feel like I should know one of these because I'm guessing they won it with Everton.
Mm-hmm. But didn't
Peter
manage
Reid.
Everton. Peter Reid was one. Yeah, Peter Reid is former Thailand manager.
Wow. So we've got 2 more.
2 more.
And what?
Like I say, one's
no idea.
What was the clue? Sorry, Jim.
No idea.
Right, another one you'll definitely know of is a former England captain, and I can't really give much else out.
Surely
he's managed
not.
in the Premier.
Tony
He's
Adams.
managed in the.
Tony Adams.
No, I can see why you think that. But he's managed in the Premier League. He achieved the Great Escape 1 year as a manager.
It's Brian Robson.
Brian Robson.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And the final one is a club legend at a Champions League club. Now, we've alluded to this earlier.
Could be Aston Villa related.
Mm.
Stan Collymore, is it?
No.
I would pay money for that, Matt.
I mean, I would love to see
pay
Stan
money.
Collymore as Thailand manager.
Jesus.
Fucking amazing.
Fuck me.
That's
You're right.
fucking
What have you done, Matt?
documentary
What
right
have you
there.
done?
That'd be fucking outstanding.
You're right.
This
I'm
is-
Stan Collymore.
Stan Collymore in Thailand. That just in Thailand.
What have you
Oh,
done, Matt?
that'd be amazing.
What have
We
you
need to see this content. I mean, I can't. He's blocked me on Twitter.
You know-
But we need to see this content.
You know, in
Just
the Marvel
fan fiction,
multiverse, that's the type of shit we need to see in football.
Oh my god. But yeah, you're right. This guy is a club
Villa.
legend at Aston Villa. We spoke about something earlier. Think 80s, think Aston Villa, think what we spoke about with a result
80s
that happened to
against
Aston
Munich.
Villa in the 80s.
I have no idea who scored the goal.
I don't know who scored.
Oh, you don't know who scored the goal. That's the problem.
Smith? Is he called Smith?
Taylor.
Taylor?
Peter With scored the goal. For
I said
Aston Villa in
Smith. That was
Munich
close.
in the 82 Champions European Cup final. He's the 3rd one. So yeah,
Stan
Peter Reid,
Collymore.
Brian Robson, and Peter
Bloody hell,
With.
Matt
the
got
3
2 of
Aston Villa
those.
managed Thailand.
Well done.
Yeah, I got to them with a lot of help.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
the spoon feeding was off the charts, admittedly, but
Right.
I felt like you needed it, guys. Right, Greg,
okay.
let's go on with your absolute wild
yeah,
questions.
don't worry. I'll keep it short and sweet. So
Feel
basically,
like Stan Collymore in Thailand.
said who?
Sure.
I'm sure.
So just going from, I thought I could link this quite nicely with my Englishman managing Puerto Rico. Charlie Trout was his name. So for I usually do a Dale or no Dale, which is it a Dale player? Is it not? So this is my from Charlie Trout. We're going to fish or no fish.
Fantastic.
These 3 players, one of them is real. Peter Haddock. Peter Haddock.
This bit slippery, this.
Peter Haddock, Mark Tuna, or Lee Pike.
This
Mark
quiz is off the
Tuna.
scale. Off
Right,
the scale.
off the scale, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Well.
bubbling here, right.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Oh.
Peter Haddock.
What were the 3? Peter
Right,
Haddock.
just
Mark
out of curiosity, Mark Tuna, is it spelled as in the spelling of tuna,
It
or
is.
is it spelled like
Or-
CHUNER
no.
or something?
It's like the tinned variety.
Right. I actively refuse to believe anyone's actually got the surname Tuna. Just out of principle.
So
I don't
one of
care.
these
One of
3
them-
is real.
one
We're
of them's
looking
real.
for the real player.
the
I'm
real,
gonna
3.
Haddock.
Who is real?
the real Coy, right?
It's Peter
I'll go
Haddock,
Haddock.
Mark Tuna, and Lee Pike. Who is real?
Right. Oh, I feel like one of them was playing for Harchester United on Dream Team, but I don't know. Right.
I'm going Haddock.
I was going to say Haddock, but then I feel like that's just a shit out answer because you've already gone for it. So I'm going to have to go Pike.
My obvious
I don't know.
thought process.
Don't tell him your name, Lee Pike.
Yeah, don't tell him Pike. Okay. Correct answer is Peter Haddock. Played for Newcastle in the 1960s and Leeds United in the 60s as well. So I think that's Matt. Did you get that one right?
Yeah, I've never a guess in this light, so just need that. 100%.
Next one is 3 clubs.
Small. Right.
3 clubs. Club or no club, which one's real? Is it
fish related?
No fish, sorry.
Oh.
You're looking for the false one here. Which one of these is false? Okay. Deportivo Wankers, FC Club Burrito, or Mysterious Dwarfs?
Right, the incorrect one is Burrito. Because Deportivo Wanker in Colombia, there was a famous green shirt with D Wanker on the top. And Mysterious Dwarfs, I'm sure, playing like Ghana or something. I'm sure Burrito's the incorrect one. I could be wrong.
What's Matt going for?
I'll go with that as well, yeah.
You're both correct. Burrito is the false club. Yeah, Deportivo Wankers, yes. Mysterious Dwarfs, exactly what you just said there, Jim. You've got it spot on. Spot on.
And if anyone knows Wankers and Dwarfs, it's me.
Well, I didn't want to say anything, but hey-ho. We've got one more, and then we'll wrap everything up completely. Stadium or no stadium, which one here? So I'm looking for the false stadium. The false one. Thong Stadium, Fart Stadium, or Bogey Stadium? Which one is false? So that's the Thong Stadium.
All sound like they were written by 6-year-olds.
Well,
so correct, yeah.
Thong Stadium, Fart
Stadium,
Bogey Stadium. Which one is false?
No,
I'm going to go Bogey.
They're all believable because Fart. There is a club called Middle Fart in Denmark and the lower regions of Denmark. There is Muang Thong United in Thailand, but Stan Collingwood's not there.
Is he not? Are you sure about that?
Bogey. You know what? No, I'm not sure. Like I say, block me on Twitter. I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
Bogey Stadium sounds like it could be some Australian stadium or named after Ian Bogey of Port Vale fame. I've absolutely not a clue. So I'm just going to pick Bogey.
Okay.
I'll go Bogey as well.
You're both right. The Thong Stadium is in Vietnam. The Fart Stadium, I think it's Norwegian, Jim. Oh, you might be right. Danish, Norwegian. Either way. You're that way on. Bogey, I just thought I'd tie it in with something inappropriate. I don't know. Is it Philippines?
You could have gone. You could have gone.
That was your inappropriate. I could have gone a lot worse.
Well,
inappropriate. Good job we didn't do the questions. We'd have got cancelled.
It's really good job we got another question.
Yeah. You don't want to know where young boys play.
Oh dear.
In Switzerland, of course.
Newsflash: Tranmere are getting beat. Let's put that out there. Tranmere are getting beat 1-0. I hope Deck's all right there. So yeah, 1-1 Rochdale. Bollocks. Oh well.
That's an interesting goal score for Halifax. Bollocks.
That's a good name.
Is that Jimmy Bollocks? Let's play Halifax or no Halifax. Jimmy Bollocks.
Yeah. Balls or no balls.
Paul Penile. It's like, which one is it? The fake Halifax player.
Take your pick.
Aye.
Okay, Jim, we'll leave it over to you for our customary farewell, if you wish.
Oh, I haven't rehearsed this. Right, okay, so if like I say always, if you got this far, well done. You don't get any prize money, we haven't got any money to give. But just remember, regardless of what nationality your manager is, regardless of whatever insane named stadium your team seems to play at, and if there's anything fishy going on, I don't know, maybe in the ownership, just remember, it's only a game. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and take care.
Cheers, everyone.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.